believe somebody. You believe you're buying a phone with encryption. It shouldn't have hidden back doors and ways that you don't know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, what if, tell you what, you don't have anything to hide, right, Brian?
What's that?
You don't have anything to hide. You don't care if I've got a back door to everything you've done for the last 5 years, right?
I would like to believe no, but in the blog age, perhaps I do, Steve. I might say yes.
Okay, well, you could send me your hard disk, right? You wouldn't mind doing that.
No, but I hear your point, buddy. But how about this, though? I also am not being accused of terrorism. I mean, and I think that the public is saying, well, we understand your concerns about privacy, but this was an incredibly serious terrorist act, and that the government is saying, hey, it's one phone, we don't want a backdoor, and we're not looking to populate the world with this new software.
It's a crack, and I don't believe it's being terrorism. It's just a phony word being used. I mean, the case involved, actually, with Apple right now had to do with, I believe it was a shooting or a murder or something. It wasn't terrorism. You know, what is terrorism? It's just a deeper crime or anything you can associate with politics. No, I don't think we want leaders. See, we're human beings. I've been with Apple my whole life, and Apple has had a reputation for building devices that work in the human way.
But
let humans be
Steve,
humans.
the way
technology works.
I think, Steve, the record shows that the shooters in San Bernardino were affiliated with or had connections into known terror groups, and that this was an intentional terroristic act. I don't
think that's. You can't generalize that. You can't generalize that and say that's the only way embarrassing information would ever be used. I mean, ask anybody on Facebook. And also, you can't trust who's in power. I mean, it's like believing the authority and police wherever they go. Generally, when they write the rules, they're right when they're wrong. And they can't question. But this is just, totally arbitrary. How it could be used in the future is out of bounds and not needed.
You're saying there could be mission creep down the road. In other words, they say they want it for one thing today, but then it's used for something else. Still, how do you look? Could you look a parent in the eye or a relative in the eye or somebody who died that day and tell them this exactly and say, we don't want to help them get that information?
No, I don't. I'm not judgmental. When I look people in the eye, I don't think they're wrong if they think differently than me. They're right in their world, and my thinking is different for my reasons. First of all, I believe that we very much respecting what is a human being and what sort of respect does a human being mean. Our rights over time in the justice system have come about because of abuses that happen in the long run when you have things like kings and high authority making their own rules, going after who they want to go after, just disliking you, making up stories. A lot of rights have been built into the the court system, if you will, and they have a background that says protect human beings from things like torture.
Hey, Steve, it's Melissa Lee. I'm wondering if your view is absolute or does it change? Let's say the circumstances were different, where it was clearly an act of terrorism. There was no doubt about it. It was something along the lines of the Paris attack or 9/11. Would your view change? Could you actually tell authorities, no, I believe that privacy of every customer, including these proven terrorists, is worth protecting?
There will always be terrorism. I don't believe that protects terrorism. There are other methods of doing investigation. We're talking about one case or a general category of cases, which is, basically everybody, there's a back door for everyone, and the back door could get abused. It could be conquered by hackers. It could be future people that run companies like Apple decide to use it in ways they shouldn't. Privacy has a good bearing. I grew up and was kind of taught that the Bill of Rights was really absolute core values that we should have, and now I find out, we can just sort of disagree and go around them anytime we feel like it. And the word terrorist has been used way too often to scare
people. The question, Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt. The question that I put forth to you is, what if we knew that this was a case of terrorism, that there was no doubt about it? Would you be able to say comfortably that Apple should not build any backdoor, even though we know that there is this terrorist attack? There may be other plots being, brewed right now.
Well, you know what? I think with court orders and whatnot that Apple would respond, in an individual case. However, the case is more like, should you build in a back door that you can always find out what somebody has. They cannot have a realm of privacy, and I'm on the privacy side.
Well, okay,
I
Steve,
believe,
let's broaden this out just a bit, because there was a really interesting article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday about a company called Castlight Healthcare. Basically, that they track everything you buy and do, and then they let your employer know. For example, if I like wine and chicken wings, which I do, both those things, they know, and so maybe my employer knows that, oh, he's eating fried food and he's drinking wine, and therefore maybe his healthcare costs are going to go up. Is there an implied understanding when you buy a phone, not even an iPhone, just any smartphone, that you're going to be tracked anyway? Like, where do we draw the line?
That's obvious. In a sense, technology has won a lot of the battles, but the human versus technology, we should hold out what we can for the human also.
What do you think Steve Jobs would have done?
Steve was vegan. He cared about people who had feelings. That was probably, well, I'm getting off into, like, once we have artificial intelligence doing the searching of these databases, can we trust it? I think Steve would have gone for the privacy. One time we talked to the FBI. They came into Apple and notified us how to watch for all these Chinese spies that were going to try to get our IP. And Steve asked the FBI one question. He asked them, we do the same thing, right? And the FBI guy said, no, we don't. I believe in truth. I'm sorry, I follow the person who's being honest before I feel the person that I want to feel an emotional attachment to what they say.
You think the FBI was lying to you that day, in other words?
That we the U.S. don't do spying also to get IP? Yes, I think they were lying, and I think that, and I don't respect that answer.
How much?
I think it's well known that the United States engages in spying and espionage and cyber espionage. Steve, let me ask you this: if on the phone of the San Bernardino shooters, who I think were terrorists, I think most people think they were terrorists, there was information that would have led that indicated that Apple's headquarters was the next target of an attack, a biological attack, let's say. And that phone was still locked up and may still be locked up. That information was on there, and that happened. How would you feel?
You're kind of off in left field, is how I feel right now.
I don't see why I am. I have no idea why I am. If there's vital information on a phone that was owned by the county of San Bernardino.
You said that if everything we've ever done in our lives should be open to exploration, we should have absolutely zero privacy, because that if can apply to anything.
Well, if you're involved in a criminal conspiracy of some sort or another, your right to it seems to me that the society's interest in protecting the common good would trump my individual right to privacy.
You're talking about if something that hasn't been decided, and if something that probably doesn't even exist. If they had something on their phone that said Apple headquarters was the next target, that's out in left field.
But you get the spirit of his question, right?
I mean, if it could have prevented 9/11, something that actually did happen.
You're
Differently about protecting the privacy of that, the ability to unlock that phone.
You're talking about ifs for things to try to sway an emotional feeling of something that you can't throw that show that there is actually a connection that could be stalked that way.
We will only know these things, though, Steve, in hindsight. So, I mean, getting back to the case at hand, the FBI has said that they want to unlock this phone for this particular case only. Why do you not believe them? You sound, with all due respect, a little paranoid in your distrust of the authorities.
I'm actually not talking about this case. I'm talking about the general case that goes much deeper in this case, and that the FBI wants a permanent back door built in. And I just think that's wrong. I think you should buy a product and feel this is my product, and what I have is what I think I have, and I don't have companies playing tricks behind me in the background. Even Google marketing to me is something Apple doesn't do.
Okay, obviously there's going to be people. I did a poll on this yesterday on Twitter, Steve. Half the people agreed, half did. We're never going to agree on, not you or not me or not my parents or not Tyler's family or whatever. Everyone's got their own views. Let's talk about the technology. The government says that if we build or Apple builds this, they just want one copy. They'll destroy it afterwards, I presume. How does the technology work? If Apple does have to build this software that would allow this back door, it be possible to simply destroy it, or would it be kind of like creating a new type of bacteria or a virus that potentially could be then spread out?
You're trusting somebody who has not lived up to their trust in the past, and that you have no idea who's going to be operating in the future, and you give up too much.
Would it be very easily duplicate, I guess, would be a smarter way to ask my question.
I don't know what you mean by easy. I presume everything technology is easy.
You know, if they built a new version, let's call it iOS, 12.1. They just create one version of this new iOS that would allow the government to get in. Where would that iOS sit? Because privacy advocates are worried that, okay, this will spread, and therefore you could get on my phone or I can get on your phone. How does the distribution of a technology like that work, Steve? Maybe my question is a little bit crazy, but I don't know 1% of what you do about technology.
What do you mean? I mean, it could just be built in.
But where would it go? How could it spread? Apple's worried this could spread to Steve's phone or Melissa's phone or Michelle's phone. Would it be that easy to just move it around to where it would suddenly become a sort of a pirated version of a dangerous iOS around America?
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly now.
I wondered, Steve, when I read Tim Cook's letter, reading between the lines, to what degree do we know about foreign spies working in Silicon Valley? If this backdoor were created, could it be captured by the Chinese? Could it be captured by the Russians, despite how much control?
Past history has shown us that these little secrets can be discovered, explored, broken. Every day you read about a new company that, hundreds of thousands or millions of accounts got violated. So you can't be sure, no matter, how confident you are in the mathematics and all, quantum computing coming. So who knows?
Steve, is it possible for Apple to build this backdoor and keep control of it, not hand it over to the government, but use it to unlock the phone, which would then be handed over to the government? Or is that just not a possibility?
Well, we know who Apple is today, and we trust them, and they're good, but who is Apple tomorrow? Who are the people involved? Who are there insiders that would be a little secretive, just like an insider could put a whole bunch of data on a flash key and walk out of a company?
Could someone else besides Apple engineer the kind of backdoor that Apple would prefer nobody have? In other words, could the National Security Agency come up with a way to break into that operating system and open the phone?
In my mind, it doesn't matter. It's an assault on a right that people should have. In my mind, and if you disagree, you're good too. You've got your reasoning and your logic, and I've got mine. It just comes from my whole background.
Steve, the bottom line is, do you think Apple ends up having to do this? Do you believe if the court orders them, they will do it?
My hunch is yes, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if I were there, I might fight it quite vigilantly, but
I assume, Steve, that you use an iPhone. If the answer is yes, and you're afraid about this backdoor being released, would you then switch? How would you then protect yourself if you then believe that will or could be used for harm?
Some of us fight for privacy in our lives. I have had a life of being totally open, of sharing all sorts of data about me. Even when I did wrong things, breaking the law, I would tell my parents when I was young, because that would keep me from doing things I didn't believe in. And so I'm a very open person. I just share so much with the whole world, and I don't hide out. I don't make myself unfindable. So to me personally, it doesn't matter. I'm standing up for other people.
Steve Wozniak, it was a very interesting and wide-ranging interview, Steve. We do appreciate you taking a little time for us here on CNBC today. I know pretty much when we do these sort of off-the-cuff polls and stuff, the split is about 50-50, so there's a lot of people that feel exactly the way Steve does.
This morning was,
and then there's others that say, Steve, thank you very much. We do appreciate it, sir.
Interesting stuff. All right, here's what's on the menu for the rest of the hour. As pictures